Welcome back. How we doing? What's today? Today's Tuesday. Oh, the hat. How we doing? Don't worry, I have the big light off. I just haven't turned it on yet. And I actually wanted to ask you guys before we got started tonight, do you prefer the darker theme in here or with the big light on? And we'll test both here in a second. But welcome back. How we doing? Happy Tuesday, everybody. We got a lot to go through tonight. It'll probably take us through 7:15, 7:30 or so. I'm going to stand up real quick. I hope you're ready for it. And I'm going to turn that light back on. And what I'd love to hear from you guys is whether or not, because this ultimately is us connecting with the community. It's all about what you like, what you don't. Just let me know whether or not you like the light on, the light off. I'm still fine-tuning this. Nothing is ever perfect. It's always a work in progress. Hopefully, you know, it just gets better and better and better over time, whether it be the content that we talk about, the audio-visual, whatever it be. I'm going to hit the light. We'll be right back. Fuck. All right. What do you think? You guys like it dark? Dark, light. What do you want to do here? Let's take a look. Switch up the lights from time to time. No, we gotta stay consistent. Gotta stay consistent. Dark mode. Darker, dark. Okay. Is it easy to see? Right. So on mobile devices, one of the challenges, most people use mobile nowadays for stuff. On mobile devices, you're limited with your brightness settings. You know what I mean? Dark, lava lamp, skivvies, dark, turn it off, dark, please. Watching this at night in Europe, dark. All right, back up we go. Be right back. You know, the last time I tested this, I tried testing it over on the other channel. And the feedback at the time was, I might be able to add like a spotlight or something over there just to lighten it up just a little bit. But, you know, again, it's always an effort to improve, to be a little bit better each time we go live, whether that be, you know, my dumb face and talking or, you know, like I said, lighting, audio, visual, whatever it be. Always trying to be a little bit better each day. Now, we're going to talk about a lot to get the night started. If you guys can't tell by the, I got to turn my keyboard light on because now I can't see my keyboard. If you guys can't tell by the title, an additional $270 million was announced last week. I believe the 22nd was Friday. We talked about it both Tuesday and Thursday that it was coming. There were actually, oddly, some conflicting reports of, you know, how many HIMARS were going to be delivered. We're going to look, and I'm going to give you guys the link to the DoD release, but we're also going to look beyond just this most current security package of $270 million. We're going to look at things on a more holistic scale, according to a fact sheet that was provided by the Department of Defense. I went through it. I highlighted some things for us to talk about. From there, we'll jump into the Ukraine footage, and then we've got quite a bit of non-Ukraine footage to go through today. We're going to see some law enforcement footage. We're going to see some Syria footage. So we've got a lot to go over. It might end up taking us all the way to 7:30 tonight, 7:30 Eastern. I am East Coast, but you know, most importantly, thanks for being here. Hit the like button for us. It's a shill way. It's a shill thing that I have to do every time we go live. But it is important for you guys to understand that that's a free way to support the stream. The other way you can support the stream is by engaging in conversation. Keep it civil. Don't be a dickhead. There's a way to have a conversation without being an asshole on the internet. But we'll move on from that. Let's jump in first to the $270 million to Ukraine. For those that haven't had a chance to review this just yet, I'm going to pull it up for you here. I've already got it pulled up. Look at me being prepared. Holy yikes. Here we go. So this is the $270 million release from the Department of Defense. I'll give you full screen for a second so you can see where we are. We're on the Department of Defense website here. $270 million in aid. That's going to take us up to, I want to say, 7.6 some odd billion dollars that since Russia has invaded. the United States has provided Ukraine. It includes 4 additional HIMARS, 4 command post vehicles, so think command and control, things like communication, just coordinating ground elements, or, all elements, whether it be ground, air, sea. 36,000 rounds of 105 ammunition. This is actually one of the first that I've seen this. And let's talk about what this is for a second. So the UK, is going to be providing L119s. So the L119 is a 105 millimeter variant of the L118. It is, quote, the U.S. variant, but the UK is providing 50 of those. We are providing additional 105 rounds. There's going to be a line in the fact sheet that we review here in just a second that talks about the U.S. working with allied partners on stuff. They're talking about this, right? When we see allied partners providing these L119s, if we've got a host of 105 ammunition sitting, on the side over here, hey, we can just pick that up and hand that across too. It doesn't really work that way. Additional anti-armor weapons, spare parts, and other equipment. Anti-armor weapons, since they're not, there are certain things we're going to see in the fact sheet for, remember, we're looking right now at just the $270 million in additional security assistance that was announced on the 22nd. We're going to look at a fact sheet from the DoD that encompasses everything that has been provided to date. We're going to look at that, here in just a second. But something that I've noticed is that there are certain weapon systems that are called out specifically and certain weapon systems that aren't. Something that you don't see a whole lot of is Carl Gustav's AT-4s. My assumption is that the anti-armor weapons, spare parts, and other equipment, those types of things are encompassed in there. Now, there is a second section here, USAI, right? So the first section here is coming from what's known as presidential drawdown. So that means that President Biden has the authority under presidential drawdown to draw from current stock weapon systems, munitions, capabilities to provide to Ukraine. Now, USAI, that stands for Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, I believe. I have it written down over here. Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. What that effectively is, and the difference between the two, is one is drawing on current stock, one is essentially drawing from industry. Right? Now you see the Phoenix Ghost tied here, up to 580 Phoenix Ghost tactical unmanned aerial systems or loitering munitions. You see them called kamikaze drones a lot. Essentially, USAI, and the difference in presidential drawdown is part of current stock. USAI is, hey, we will go out to the military industry and we will establish contracts on your behalf. We will acquire these things and send them your way. So now that we've taken a look at, in this, language here at the bottom talks about the difference between the two. Here is that line: continues to work with its allies and partners to provide Ukraine capabilities to meet its evolving battlefield requirements. Again, a great example of that is the L119s that the UK is providing, along with the 105s, that the 36,000 rounds of 105 ammunition that the US is providing to accompany that. All right, what I want to do is I'm going to give you guys the link to this really quick. That way, for those that want to go and read a little bit more about the $270 million security package to Ukraine, you are more than welcome to. But we're about to jump into a little bit longer of a segment here, and this is going to be the fact sheet that the U.S. released, that the Department of Defense specifically released on the 22nd, that really deep dives everything that's been provided to date. Now, I highlighted a couple things. Some of them we've already talked about. That I kind of just wanted to make sure that I draw your attention to. So first and foremost, this accounts for $8.2 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since Biden took office, right? Very specific there. Since Biden took office, this is $8.2 billion. President Biden, excuse me. Since the beginning of his administration. Now, 7.6 billion of this assistance has been provided since the beginning of Russia's, words matter, unprovoked and brutal invasion, February 24th. It was unprovoked and it has been brutal. You know, it's interesting to include those words in an official Department of Defense release. That's the only thing that I'll note about that. And this is coming from an information operations guy, right? It talks about the 270 million. This was released on the same day that the 270 million was announced. But what they did is they then summarized, at least to some extent, everything that's been provided to Ukraine so far. 1,400 Stingers, 6,500 Javelins. This is what I mentioned earlier about certain weapon systems being called out specifically, certain weapon systems not. There are actually more 155s that have been provided than I actually thought. I thought we were somewhere close to right around 100, but apparently we're sitting at about 126 155s. Those are the 777s, the M777. It's a towed 155 howitzer that have been provided. 411,000 155 rounds. There's a lot of talk about whether or not some of the more advanced GPS-guided rounds are going to be provided or have been provided. I was actually under the impression that some of them already had. Here's where, I also highlighted some of the more impactful, or at least larger, more advanced weapon systems like the HIMARS. We're now up to 16 HIMARS that are in country. When we did the video that talked about the impact that HIMARS could have, and it was originally just 4 HIMARS. At the time, the troll farms were 4 HIMARS isn't going to make any difference, and then it was 8 HIMARS isn't going to make any difference, and then it was 12 might make a difference, and now it's 16 HIMARS that are now either in or on their way to Ukraine. The HIMARS has been extremely active. It has absolutely changed the landscape in Ukraine. Ukraine now has the ability to reach just about anywhere. There are certain areas like Crimea, especially near like the Kherson southern front that they have down there, that Ukraine is still out of reach, but that's where you start to talk about the potential provision of ATACMS, which if you aren't familiar with ATACMS, we talked about that quite a bit last week. That would provide that capability to reach into Russia's pockets really wherever they wanted to. So HIMARS has actually been very, very effective. According to everything the DoD has released, and none of the HIMARS have been destroyed to date. Russia has said they destroyed at least 2. I feel like the U.S. would acknowledge that. It would provide them ample opportunity to send more, had that been the case. I thought this one was interesting. Hundreds of Humvees, so high mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicles. Humvee, that's what that is. Hundreds. To me, what it sounds like is they just kind of opened up a book and said, "Hey, we got about 1,000 of these that we can send your way. Let's just send a whole bunch of them." And those ended up on a train, and then on a boat, and then on another train. It's just kind of nondescript, right? There's got to be we're probably looking at a very sanitized list of this. 113s, the APCs, 59 million rounds of small arms. I actually meant to highlight that one. That's a lot of bullets. Cartridges. I understand the difference, but it's easier to say bullets. Cartridge is a big word, and I try to use little words wherever possible. But that's a lot of rounds. It is, and it's going to be across all of your NATO standard. One of the last times I talked to Starsky, I asked a very specific questions. What do your designated marksmen, your snipers use? They love the 308. Of course they're using stuff like 7.62 by 54. Your Mosin cartridges. But a lot of that's going to be 7.62 39, 5.45. So your AK ammunition there, 5.56 by 45, what you would theoretically put in an M4 and M16. That's a lot of bullets. Body armor and helmets makes sense. Harpoon coastal defense system. So this actually leads me into a talking point that I had. Over the last couple days, Russia has been very active in targeting Odessa. Odessa being in the furthest west port of Ukraine. It's kind of the last port available to Ukraine when you look at it from a metropolitan area perspective. Russia has been targeting Odessa very, very heavily. And one of the problems with that is there were just agreements reached that said Russia would not target ports, especially ports that processed grain. Russia claims that they targeted those ports because they were storing things like harpoon ammunition, military storage. There's a possibility that you're looking at two sides of the same coin here. If Russia had agreed to not target ports like Odessa, what's the likelihood that Ukraine then moved military arms, equipment, and ammunition into warehouses there under the premise that it would theoretically be safe from being targeted by Russia? Now, technically speaking, regardless of what was there, if it was in storage or otherwise, it was not being used in Ukraine's fight to expel Russia from their country. So Russia did agree to not target ports, but even over the last 24 hours, I want to say something like, 6 cruise missiles hit Odessa and Odessa Oblast. But one of those reports, one of them, said that one of the warehouses being used to store harpoon missiles was hit by Russian cruise missiles. Everything from claymores to night vision. Electronic jamming equipment is interesting. That's got to be localized stuff. So you've got like jammer backpacks and such that can go out. Hey, kitty, come back. Sorry. I promised a cat earlier, but there was no cat around when we started. And since the cat wouldn't move when we started Thursday's stream, there were a bunch of comments asking for a cat. So I've got one right here, but he's scratching up my table. Lost my train of thought here. Oh, electronic jamming equipment. So you've got both wheeled, large, non-man portable electronic jamming equipment, and then you've also got localized man packs and such that you can use for that. I would assume that electronic jamming equipment is referring to the more localized man packs, not necessarily your larger wheeled pieces of equipment that have more of an operational impact rather than a localized tactical impact. But there's the potential here that the sanitization of this list, there could be some very high capability weapons that have been, or not weapons, I shouldn't say, high advanced capabilities. That's the better way to put it. There could be some very advanced capabilities that at some point have been provided to Ukraine. So again, I just wanted to go over, generally speaking, what has been provided to Ukraine thus far, what accounts for this 8.2 or 7.6 billion in spending. This is all drawn against that, what everybody thought was a $40 billion check that we were just like signing and handing over to Ukraine. It's not really how it worked or works. It's allocating funds available to that, and then it's kind of like a balance, then we spend against that balance. And let's move on. I'm going to check in on the chat here for a second. Hey, Ronnie, what's up, Colton? How are you? We want to see the kidders. All right, hold on. I'll play some music. I don't know. Well, I'll try and grab him the next time he rolls through. I've got a few different options for cats. We've got 3 cats, 2 dogs. I got 2 kids too. Sometimes I can't tell the difference. If you guys wouldn't mind, let me know where you're chiming in from. Fun fact: the reason I ask you for that is comments actually help the algorithm the best. So let me know where you're chiming in from. It's actually very helpful, and I also really love to see where exactly across the globe the Funker 530 community is. Let's jump into our footage that we've got for the night. I'm going to kill the music again. Love them shorts, Ryan. I love you very much. Hi. The very first thing. Oh, I didn't give you guys the link to the security assistance package. I did give you the link to the security assistance package, but not to the fact sheet. There's a lot of people in the chat. I'm gonna have to spam this, guys. I'm sorry. There's so many people talking. So there's the fact sheet. If you guys do miss the comment there, remember anything that we talk about or I pull up on the screen, I try to put in the description down below the video, right where the like button is, that you can slap right on the hind parts. It's an uppercut, not a straight punch. You got to make sure you lift it a little bit when you hit it. So if you do miss something, if you are watching this maybe after the fact, not live, check down there in the description area. That's where you're going to find a lot of these talking points that I've got ahead of time, along with the links to all of these videos and fact sheets, things along those lines. Now, the thumbnail. So we already talked about the title, $270 million to Ukraine. Let's talk about the thumbnail, the PT-91. So if you're not familiar with the PT-91, it's basically the T-72 with a couple upgrades. Poland, there is video. Go ahead and leave. Sorry. There's video of the PT-91 tank, which is, again, more or less a modified version of the T-72. Coming up for you guys now. Being delivered to Ukraine. And nobody knows how many. Now, to me, this video specifically that we're looking at here, that we're about to look at, to me, there's a lot of tanks on here. And of course, we can count the individual tanks as it goes down the line. But what we don't know is, is this the first batch? Is this the second batch? Now, relative to the differences in the T-72, it's really pretty simple. Dual-axis fire control system, so vertical stabilization, stabilization, being able to keep the barrel it's one of the upgrades that you find. One, you've got explosive reactive armor, better engine and transmission, as well as a new model. Now, I did try to do about 10 minutes of research. I didn't have a whole lot of time for this one specifically on whether or not the autoloader is helpful relative to the Turret Olympics. I couldn't find much. If you guys are out there and you do find something, jump in the Discord. Make sure you guys are, communicating about this stuff, because I do jump in the Discord quite often and read through. Sometimes if I've got a video I need some help translating or something, you'll find me in there quite a bit. Too loud? I can't hear you. What? Video audio drowned you out? Oh, did it really? Yikes, dude. Well, I don't know how far I got there. But basically, nobody knows how many of these. There are a couple capabilities on the PT-91 that differentiate it from the T-72. Specifically, the dual-axis fire control, explosive reactive armor that they've added to it, and a better engine and transmission. You've also got a new autoloader. That's it. Again, kind of in my own defense kind of deal, CYA, if you will. Still figuring out the audio balance on my faders and sliders and buttons and switches. There's so many buttons and shit that I've got to touch and poke before things start to work that I don't really moving on. But thanks for letting me know, guys. So if I screw something up, I'm sure you'll be quick to let me know. Danube Bay. Let's move on. We've got some Russian perspective footage coming up here right out of the gate. We're gonna watch what was described to me as a hype reel for the VDV. Well, yes, it does show the VDV, so Russia's airborne, if you will. I don't know that I would call it a hype reel, personally. We're going to go ahead and watch this, then I'm going to jump in and check on some of this support, and we'll be right back. Coming up for you right now.
Цель 800. Формация 8. Ветер 2 секунды.
Работает.
Yeah, I fixed the echo, guys. I was dicking around with the settings earlier.
Есть попадание.
Следующая цель. 700.
Цель 700. Ветер 4 секунды. Три секунды.
Now, I don't know if it's the audio here for me. And I don't know what weapon system that is, T5000, SV98. I'm not sure. But that thing seems really, really quiet. I don't know. There's another shot coming up here in just a second. You'll listen now.
Принял. Работает.
Есть попадание.
Работа закончена.
Now, the reason it makes me believe it's quiet, of course, you could have distortion, which, or compression of the audio in some kind, excuse me. But, when I make a video on the range, for example, I have to be very careful where I point our mic, because the audio for the gunshot will essentially drown out my voice, and my voice will be super quiet. What's interesting to me is how quiet this weapon system is, and how clear their voices still are, so that either the video has been edited to immediately compress that shot, or the system itself is just super, super, super quiet.
Уходим.
Perhaps they're using a silencer. They are using a suppressor, but suppressors don't really work in the way that you might think that they do. It's still pretty damn loud. You can see the suppressor on the front here. Still pretty loud, especially for a big boy caliber like this. It's going to be deafening to the ears in a small room like this. That's kind of the point. Right? Could be subsonic ammo. Yeah. Bomber Collat. Amateur hour. Thanks, dude. I wonder if we'll get to see plotting boards and bag charges. Oh, was that a bag charge? Hold on. Was that a bag charge? Oh, there's bag charges on that. So if you're not familiar with bag charges, what you need to do when you're shooting mortars, we have a mortarman on our team, Will. You guys know Will, Will at this point. We've released quite a few videos of Will's recent trip to Ukraine, embedded with Global Surgical and Medical Support Group. Bag charges are a very antiquated form of providing ass behind the round coming out of the tube, right? So what you need to do is you need to have some type of propellant that you can stack, dependent upon the range that you want to hit. Now, bag charges are a very antiquated form of doing that. It's essentially a charge in a bag that you tie around the bottom of it. Russia, we released a couple months ago video of Russia using bag charges. I mean, plotting boards. Very, very old school way of doing mortars. And there's a bag charge. And this is the VDV, VDV, whatever, however you want to say it. This is kind of the tip of the spear for Russia to a certain extent. With those shorts, Ronnie, we can see your bag charge. You likey? All right, let's bring it back up. I thought we had more on the video there. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to see some more Russian perspective footage. Ronnie, why don't you show him Russian perspective? This is kind of from a Russian perspective. We're going to watch Russians use incendiary munitions. Specifically, these are magnesium rounds, which is not really far off from Willie Pete from White Phosphorus. They both burn extremely, extremely hot. There is a difference between the two, but it's I'm not a chemist, nor am I an artilleryman, so understanding that difference is really just a Google search away. I'm here to help. Coming up for you guys right now. We've got 2 videos specifically of these magnesium rounds that continue to be used. We saw these quite a bit in Mariupol when Russia was, attempting to take over the Azovstal and eventually did, steel plant, but they continue to be used, and these were fired from a BM-21 Grad vehicle. Coming up. Now, you got to look out here at the distance, and you'll see them start to fall right there. These are incendiary. They're basically designed to just set fire to anything that they land on. They burn extremely hot. Is it the use of phosphorus banned, or is it white phosphorus? So again, you're looking at a different metal here. You're looking at a different composition. This might be one of the instances where one thing is banned because of the scary name and that everybody knows, white phosphorus, right? But the difference between white phosphorus and magnesium when it touches the skin, for example, is very little outside of the supposedly the toxic effect of the chemical. Both magnesium-based incendiary rounds as well as white phosphorus are going to burn at extreme heat. White phosphorus, I understand to be quite a bit more toxic. It'll poison you a little bit more. The magnesium-based stuff is going to be just real hot. It's going to suck real bad when you touch it. We got into quite a long and drawn-out back and forth about this when we saw these rounds being used originally. And we got another video to look at this. Somebody called them murder sparkles, and that's exactly what they look like, especially in a night sky. But the round specifically out of the BM-21 that's fired unleashes something like, 100,000 of these damn things that just burn all the way down and for quite a while once they hit the ground. But take that all with a grain of salt. I am not a magnesium or white phosphorus expert. I'm just a dude watching videos on the internet in my house. There's an interesting question out there from Time. What happens when the Rus take Bakhmut and Seversk? They're 5 kilometers from Bakhmut, allegedly probing suburbs of both. Then it's steppe country. It ain't looking good. Well, there's two thought processes for that. Yes, of course, it doesn't look good when you start to think about the Russian mob, the Russian advance that you're used to seeing. All the way back in Russian doctrine to the development of the AK. Russian doctrine essentially just throws manpower at a problem. From a military perspective, they throw manpower at a problem and just kind of hope that the mob, the wave, overpowers. Let's bring this back up. That the mob or the wave overpowers whatever challenge that they're working on. So from one perspective, yeah, absolutely, that seems like it would be terrifying. From the other, you start to have some really advanced capabilities that are now being put in place. Very little terrain that you'd have to deal with from a HIMARS, from an artillery perspective. The two trains of thought are essentially that it's both in Ukraine's favor to have a better defensible position in a little bit more of an open terrain, or it is in Russia's advantage to have that more open terrain to take advantage of essentially en masse invasion force. I personally lean on the side of Russia will continue to take ground. What Ukraine needs to continue to do is inflict as many casualties as possible. Again, I didn't say kill people. Casualty can be injuries. It's effectively just taking somebody out of the war. Ukraine needs to make each mile, each kilometer, each inch, meter, centimeter, whatever, cost Russia. Now, ultimately, that's the same thing that happened in the Winter War, is the cost of Russia's invasion ended up really stifling what Russia could ultimately request at the end of it. I mentioned from week 1, month one, day one, even, that the state of Ukraine as we knew it was probably never going to exist again. There has to, while I would love to believe that Ukraine will eventually just be able to, boot Russia out, they'll just get tired of, taking inch after inch. It's really hard to see that end state. And I'm just looking at this as objectively as possible. One of the things that people get really wrapped up on, though, is when Russia takes, a kilometer, it's Ukraine is being steamrolled, right? Ukraine is losing ground. Well, of course, Ukraine is losing ground. Ukraine is fighting an uphill battle with trickles of weapons and ammunition to bring them to either the current state of what Russia is throwing against them, or in some instances, take them into a next generation of capabilities that not even Russia is currently fielding, right? That's when you start to talk about the HIMARS. There is no currently, I'm a big fan of HIMARS. Like I'm a huge fan of that weapon system. There is no current Russia mitigation for HIMARS. Like they have nothing that matches the capability, understanding what it's there for and what it's not. So as Russia takes, the kilometer here, the inch there, the mile over that away, Ukraine is kind of continuously finding themselves consolidating combat power, at least in the east. So again, you have to look at this as really three fronts. Let's pull up a map here. We're going to kind of dive in for a second. We're going to bring up the Institute for the Study of Wars map. I just fat-fingered this. Now, I'm starting to lean on some very rusty Intel analyst type stuff here. So, it's been a long time since I've done Intel dweeb stuff. You have to look at this as a multi-front conflict. Right? I'm going to put me in the low right. Let's go full screen. So, while yes, the East is being swallowed, right? This salient that still exists here, that at one point extended all the way out to Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. This is where Russia is making its most ground, but Russia is losing ground in the south. There is an active counteroffensive in Kherson. There are active counteroffensives in Kharkiv right now. So as Russia, gains ground in the east here, they lose ground in the north and the south. Again, you have to look at this more holistic than just the Donbass or just Luhansk or Donetsk. Russia has made it abundantly clear that the intent of this invasion is so far beyond the Donbass or Crimea or international recognition of Crimea and the Donbass. I don't remember what his name was. Senior Russian defense official basically just said within the last 24, 48 each day that I read Russia Ukraine stuff, it's effectively just melding into one day. It's kind of difficult to keep track of the individual days here. But he essentially just said that the intent of this is to remove Ukraine from existence. Just bring that back to Russia. Now, the actual political and military goals are more akin to a neutral, from a political stance, Ukraine with a military reliance on Russia. That's not going to happen. That won't happen. The West is not going to let it happen. The West has spent too much money, provided too much equipment to let that happen. Just won't. What may, though, right? And we're throwing darts at a dartboard. Yeah, I guess that's close. Yeah, that fits. No, you don't know what you don't know. But what may happen is at some point, the cost of Russia's invasion is going to continue to surmount. The cost of economic sanctions is going to continue to surmount. Russia, we're essentially on our way to a new trench meta. And we've been in that trench meta now since 2014, since the invasion here. These black lines identify previously held Russian territory. Pay close attention to the east here and where Russia now holds relative to where they had in 2014. It's not that much more in the east. They're holding a lot more ground than they did in 2014, but look specifically at the east. So the advances in the east, yes, Russia is gaining. They have gained quite a bit. The previous forward line of troops was up here near Severodonetsk. But let's start to take a look at where Ukraine is gaining ground. They're gaining the south back. They're gaining Kharkiv in the north back. Once again, I'm not an expert. I've never claimed to be. I don't pretend to be. These are all just a washed-up intel analyst's review of what's going on from a very safe and comfortable room in my house. Right? Let's go back to the footage. I need to check in on some of the support. You guys have been just continuously sending across support to us, and we thank you very much for it. Do me a favor though. Please do make sure you're tapping on the like button. It does help quite a bit. If you are just chiming in with us, let us know where you're chiming in from. We've got mods in the chat that are here, trying to help out with anybody being an asshole out there. Like again, you can have a conversation without being an asshole. It's possible. I have faith in you for it. Eagles Perch, thanks for the $5. If Putin died right now, do you think there would be an end to the... Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes. I do believe that wholeheartedly. I have no factual basis to kind of prove that, but I'm going from my gut here. Yes. Darcy, thank you for the $20. I appreciate that. Phil, thank you for the $12 for the beer fund running. I actually just ran out of beer. That's really helpful, and thank you for that. Trenton, thank you for the $10. Show the guys some funds. Never necessary, but it's awesome if you're able to do that. It helps us out a lot. Thy Rampant Pigeon, thanks for the $240. I finally saw Top Gun and it made me think of you. What'd you think? You like it? Dude, I teared up. I did. It was like a nostalgia thing for Top Gun. It really was. They did just enough nostalgia that I remembered being a kid watching it. Bright-eyed. I wanted to be a pilot. Never panned out for me, but they did just enough nostalgia that it felt good. Funker, the founder of our channel, I think he's seen it like 4 times. And we did release our latest shirt, the Do Pilot Shit shirt. They wouldn't call it on the page, on the Bunker branding page, Do Pilot Shit. I think they called it Do Pilot Stuff, but !merch if you guys want to go check that out. Anyway, let's move on to the next bit of footage. We're already way behind. Oh, God. Yeah, speaking of HIMARS, speaking of Russia's really challenge. If Russia was already logistically challenged, now with Ukraine being provided the level of capability that they have to reach into Russia's back pocket and, snatch stuff, and when I say snatch stuff, I mean more blow it up. The logistics picture, and remember, the army runs on its stomach, or, beans, bullets. Everybody likes to talk about the next modern weapon system that goes out there. Everybody likes to talk about, just give Ukraine planes. There's an entire logistics chain that would have to come along with that in order for that to be remotely effective. There's a diesel storage facility in Donetsk that was just destroyed by Ukraine, or presumably. And we've got some video here that we can watch of it on fire. Russia has had problems getting fuel to the front lines since, I don't know, day one. Russia says that 4 HIMARS have been destroyed, yet their locators are still pinging on U.S. radars. Again, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, it's really difficult for me to believe that the U.S. wouldn't admit that a HIMARS had been destroyed, because that would justify the provision of more HIMARS, as long as, and one of the provisions that the U.S. has kind of agreed to with Ukraine is that it's trackable. You know, even like NATO software for logistics tracking of equipment has been provided to Ukraine. But that's one of those things that I feel like the U.S. would agree if it had been destroyed, because then what do? You have a delta in what's been provided so far, and if what we're trying to do is increase Ukrainian capability, suddenly we need to now get back to that baseline of capability. So it would provide them an opportunity to give more HIMARS. I don't know. Maybe that's just a dumb way of thinking about it. It'll burn for a week, if not longer than that. If it's a diesel storage facility and it's on fire like that, it's gonna be burning for a bit. But that's just kind of the latest example of, or one of the latest examples, I should say, of Ukraine of finding a way to impact, Russia's invasion without going for the front line. They're looking at the capability to slow the invasion based on the logistics chain. Now, Russia's doing the same thing. There's always two sides to a coin. Russia's doing the same thing. That's what they believe that they're doing in Odessa. Ukraine has kind of decried the strike on Odessa as going against the agreement for grain. Russia claims that they struck weapons storage, specifically like Harpoon anti-ship missile storage. So they're both essentially lobbing, munitions over the front line to try and impact the capability for either to really wage a war of attrition. Let's move on to the next one here. This is one of the last ones for Ukraine that we're going to cover. We've got some more Ukraine footage. And this one's kind of weird. And the only reason I say it's weird is at Funker 530, I've seen a lot of nasheed footage. A nasheed is essentially, it sounds like a song, but what it actually is folks reading passages from the Quran in a singing voice. What's weird to me is seeing a nasheed come from Ukraine. What we're going to see here is the Sheikh Mansur battalion shelling Russians with an auto-loading mortar. I really just want one of these. I just want to shoot one once, and you'll understand. Timeout, Ronnie's getting spicy. I see a comment out there. Ukraine footage, duh. I don't know if you're being spicy or not, but I saw a bunch of other comments, so I'm not going to direct this at you just in general. We opened up with Russian perspective footage tonight, so maybe be here to formation on time next time. Going back. I've given you enough of the nasheed. Let's talk about who this is. The Sheikh Mansur Battalion is essentially one of two Chechen Volunteer Battalions that fight on behalf of Ukraine. The other one, I can't pronounce very well, but the Dudayev Battalion, they are actually the original. Sheikh Mansur himself fought against Russian expansion into the Caucasus during the late 17th, 18th century, something along those lines. That's where they get their name from. And Sheikh Mansur Battalion specifically began in 2014 in Iran, oddly, Denmark, of all places, right? So what's interesting about this is in 2021, Zelensky actually levied sanctions against the Sheikh Mansur Battalion, but they've been fighting on Ukraine's behalf since 2014, right? So Mariupol was very heavy. They participated in the defense of Kiev. I didn't have for these individual clips for the live show. I don't dive in as far as I typically would on our edited work that we do in the Funker News Network playlist. So I don't necessarily know if those sanctions are still in place or not. But something of interest is this month the Sheikh Mansur Battalion declared an insurgency in Chechnya. That's something that we're probably going to follow pretty closely. Jumping over to Jay Simmons. Thank you for the 693 super chat. Have you seen much of Patrick Lancaster? No, I haven't. Seems to contradict a lot of the mainstream media. Yeah, I haven't spent a whole lot. I've watched like one or two and subsequently turned it off. Let's move on to the next one that I've got here. Oh, so the Czech Republic provided two Mi-35 Hinds. The Mi-35 is the export-controlled version of the Mi-24, or the export version of the Mi-24. And it's doing some pretty wild shit here. Excuse my language. Beep, 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 beep. It's coming up for you guys right now. Now, we've seen this move before. I don't think we've ever seen it done 10 feet off the dirt. Now, on first glance, when I watched this, I'm giving you the music now, and then we're going to turn the music off. Now, on first glance, when I watched this, I was like, man, that's fake. That's some DCS footage right there. But, you know, through a series of the mob on Twitter, they've actually found that the, I guess, tail number or serial numbers of what was provided by the Czech Republic to Ukraine do match. It is believed that this is real footage and some pretty amazing maneuvers here. I mean, that's wild. So those are Ukrainians flying the Czech Republic provided Mi-35s. All right, let's jump into the very last one. This is going to be our last Ukraine piece here. We've still got time. We'll make it through everything. So we've mentioned partisan activity before. So think Wolverines, if you will, and the Patrick Swayze version, not the Thor version. My wife and I tried to get the wife to watch Red Dawn, the remake of Red Dawn, and she fell asleep in the first like 5 minutes. But think Patrick Swayze and Wolverines when you watch this, and it's coming up for you guys right now. These are partisan operators in a combat compilation from behind Russian lines, so in Russian-controlled areas. That could be anywhere from Mariupol, where we know that there's a lot of partisan activity. You've got that kind of activity in Kherson, as well as near Severodonetsk. Coming up now. For obvious reasons, we have no idea where this is from. Somebody could probably figure out based on that sign. Now, it would probably be more accurate to describe this as kind of like deep embed recon type stuff rather than partisan stuff. You do see Ukraine flags on the uniforms. Sepulka, Rani, Antonovsky Bridge just got hit by HIMARS. Again? It's been hit like 10 times. And Russia's actually building a pontoon bridge across it. We can talk about that. Thanks for the 10, man. Let's see if I can jump on Twitter and grab some of that. Ukrainian strikes targeting the Antonovsky Bridge in Kherson Oblast. Russian air defenses firing. This is a pretty good video. Let's pull this up here. Obviously, I just pulled this off Twitter. Our team has not had any chance to look at it, identify any context for it. It's coming up for you. And then we'll talk about the significance of this.
Что-то чувствую, моста не будет. Завтра.
Пиздец. Джессинка, чистая курочка. Ох, ёб твою мать, надо было бы наклеить.
Hard to see anything here.
Пиздец.
Let's drive this a little bit. There we go.
Да. Вот после вот такой хуеты все и началось.
Это типа русское ПВО.
Да. Оно тут стоит, видишь, в чертах города.
That would be probably Russian anti-air
Это HIMARS, наверное.
or air defense.
Потому что они вылетают только когда они засекают издали ракеты. Ну хуй они их прочитают.
Not easy to see what's going on here.
Ох, ебать. Не-не, что будет?
It's a little dark.
У нас сейчас что-то будет. Вот.
There's a better one you can see all hits. Okay.
Там я вот ту хрень поставила, понял? Типа дальше, там и будто что-то достроили.
Угу. Смотри.
All right, we'll bring it up.
Жесткий перелет.
See if I can't catch another one here. Let's talk about this bridge for a second. So we're going to bring up Google Earth. The guys will probably get that published and we'll probably take a look and talk about that. But we were talking about the Antonovsky Bridge last week and kind of the strategic value for Ukraine that it provides. So let's take a look at Kherson here. There you go. So here's Kherson, right? Ukraine has made their way. I'm going to put myself in the low right. Ukraine has probably made their way to around about here, if we were looking at the Institute for the Study of Wars map. Now, something that's notable for those that don't know. I know a lot of you are very well in tune with what's happening. Remember, we're always potentially going to have community members or folks that are chiming in that aren't as well in tune with the on-ground strategy or the things that are happening geographically in Ukraine. So also, this is the very south of Ukraine, just to the northwest of Crimea. It's kind of a strategic location. So something of note here on the Dnipro is there are very, very few bridges, right? There's actually none all along this route here. There are zero bridges until you get here. This is the Antonovsky Bridge. Now, what this bridge provides, Russia, is a key ground line of communication, whether that in a G-lock can be anything from supplies to actual communication, like, hey, we're okay if, for some reason, satellite comms or other C2 goes out. But as a G-lock, it is a very, very key point. Ukraine has been targeting this bridge with HIMARS for the last week. It's been hit a lot of times to the point to where there was some video that I ran across of a pontoon bridge being built, I want to say about right here by Russia. Pontoon bridge being just kind of a very kind of haphazard way of just slapping together a bunch of shit to get across it. So this bridge is a pretty key location. It provides one of the only routes north from Russia's control on the south. As we bring it out here, Russia has controlled Crimea for quite some time. And I'll have to own this. I kind of scoffed initially when Ukraine was targeting this with HIMARS. We know that they are using HIMARS to do so because it's not really a system that's designed to take out a bridge. However, if you shoot enough with the HIMARS, it probably will. And that appears to be what may have taken place. Now, I can't really speak ad nauseum about the status of this bridge. I do know that it was structurally compromised over the last couple days, again, to the point to where Russia began building pontoon bridge. Frag out, thank you very much for the 100. I'm not familiar with that monetary symbol. Do you think China will attack India like Russia did, or attack India? No, probably not. I think a Chinese incursion on Taiwan is probably the more likely of the two. But I think even in that instance, China is looking for a lot of stability right now. You know, they kind of have an opportunity to take over a lot of Russia's Wasta. You know, Wasta was a word we used a lot in Afghanistan for reputation or power, if you will. And when I say Wasta, I mean they're standing on the global power scale, right? All right, let's jump into the non-Ukraine section here, and we've got some bangers here. We're going to jump over to South Africa. Now, the important thing, and I say this just about every night, and those that are here every Tuesday and Thursday, you guys have heard it over and over again. We cover every conflict, across the globe. Doesn't matter where it is. The important thing for us is that this footage is being documented, that we see what's happening on the ground in these locations. Here on this show, I kind of give you some of my thoughts, my take on things. But the app and website are available to you well before it ever touches this show for you to go and watch and draw your own conclusions from. We're jumping into Johannesburg, South Africa here, where a witness watched a courier driver, and the video starts just immediately after a heist team tried taking over a box truck. The courier jumped out, got into a firefight with these dudes, ended up pushing them into a little shop. That's where our video picks up here. It's coming up for you guys here in just a moment. There you go. So just to kind of draw your attention to what you're looking at here, you've got your heist team inside of this building here. And you've got your courier driver here. And talk about earning your paycheck coming up. So they're continuing to kind of engage each other here, single shots. You know, there's like 4 or 5 dudes in here that this guy is kind of in a standoff with. The real conflict is happening in cyberspace. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And it's been happening for a long time. Now these guys are going to stay in a standoff here for a little bit longer. Our, I guess, kind of hero is going to wheel back as these guys kind of take off. Again, this is South Africa, Johannesburg. And we'll get a shot of our box truck here in a second. So here's our hero again, quote unquote. Here is the truck coming up now. So this truck specifically is, you know, that crew of dudes rolled up on this guy. He jumped out, started shooting. They ran into that shop. He engaged them at you know, some point, realized that you had kind of a standoff there. Identified his opportunity to make space. Peels out. Okay, coming up next is going to be kind of a not safe for work section of the stream. So I have to make sure that I say that if you have, I don't know, small children or something, or you yourself are a small child, you should probably stop watching now, because this is, you know, where we're going to see some very close encounters. Specifically, we're going to take a look at a couple pieces of law enforcement body-worn camera footage. This very first one is going to come out of Bakersfield Police Department in California. Now, this took place on April 20th, 2022. There was a traffic stop of a maroon Chevy, Chevy Tahoe specifically, for reckless driving. Once it stopped, the driver fled or attempted to flee, but immediately lost control. Foot pursuit began, which is where our video picks up here with 2 officers. Also, shaky video alert coming up. No audio till the camera gets tapped.
Get on the fucking ground! Keep that apart. Back down. Losing his ball head. Hey, stop reaching for your waistband! Stop, or I'm gonna tase you! Stop! Get on the ground. I'm gonna tase you. Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
All right, let's talk about what we just saw for a second. So, while the officer was running, you can see a couple lasers, a red and green laser. I'm trying to find a spot right there. Right there. You can see a red and green laser. Those are from a less than lethal taser option that he had deployed. Fast forwarding a little bit here. Once, at some point here, as soon as they go to enter this hedgerow, bush line. Oh, we're already past it. The suspect fires twice at the officers, or at this officer, I should say. It's actually about right here. Right here. We're going to roll this at 0.25 speed. Okay, so officer's been fired at twice here. He then proceeds to engage with lethal. And the engagement's over. Okay, now let's watch a witness captured portion of this.
He's got a gun in his hand. One down. Expedite medical aid. Male Hispanic bald head.
Oh shit, he got some burner on him, bro. Bro, he got some burner, bro. Bro, he got some burner, bro. Bro. Bro, he's about to shoot that cop, bro. That nigga had a burner on him, bro. They about to kill this nigga.
We're at the skate park. This shit's happening right now. That fool tipped out. Yeah, he's running hella slow. That cop can't even catch him.
Told you, bro. Told you. Fuck. Get down, bro. Oh shit, did you hear that shit?
Okay, so that was witness footage that was taken from the area. Again, that was April 20th, 2022, Bakersfield Police Department. Initially, there was a Chevy Tahoe that was pulled over for reckless driving. Once they went to initiate the traffic stop, the Chevy Tahoe decided that it was going to peel off, but immediately lost control. Foot pursuit ensued. Rule number 1 is cardio. So the officer was able to maintain distance or maintain a close distance with the suspect. But as we just saw right there, that the entirety of that time, the suspect was running with a handgun. And in my very untrained, definitely not professional opinion, as just a guy watching video on a screen, there was a lot of patience displayed there until the suspect engaged the officer, in which case the officer feared for his life, engaged the suspect back, and dealt with the threat. Let's move on to the next one. We've got another piece of body-worn camera footage here. I'm going to be honest, this was going to be tough to watch. This is going to be somewhat cringe-inducing. What we've got here is officers responded to a call. I don't have a whole lot of details on what exactly that call was, but when they arrived, and this was on July 5th, 2022, a dog attacked one of the two officers. One of the other officers went to use his service weapon against that dog and ends up impacting or shooting his partner. I'll give you some more detail as we watch. This one is graphic. Oh, warrants. That's what I get for skipping straight to... We're going to fast forward a bit. And again, this one is available in... Actually, I failed to put this one in the stream description, so I will paste this one in the stream description here really quick. Give me a second. Stand by. Stand by. Or I'm going to paste it in the chat for you guys, because I didn't, for whatever reason, post this one in the description. Here you go. That's what we're watching. If you don't want to watch it here, you're welcome to head over to the website. Coming back up. Now, this is out of Knoxville County in Tennessee. Now, we've got two officers on the scene here, Deputy Jordan Hurst and Deputy Lydia Driver.
I'm giving you one opportunity to not go to jail with her. I already know she's in there.
Again, they're issuing warrants. They go through the process of talking with the homeowners for a bit.
She's trying to put the dog in.
Are you?
Here comes the dog.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Watch out! Ah! Ah! Are you okay?
No, you shot me!
Oh God! Are you okay?
No, man! Oh my!
All right. So what we just saw is the dog attack Deputy Lydia Driver. You know, you can hear everything that's going on there, and we're about to see the perspective of Deputy Jordan Hurst.
Are you on now?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh! Watch out! Watch out! Watch out!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Watch out!
Ah!
Are you okay?
No, you shot me!
Oh God! Are you okay?
No, man! Ah!
Echo 7 1081.
Ah! Oh my god!
All right, we're not going to listen to that. What we are going to do is show some of the life-saving measures, though, that took place. Again, if you guys want to watch this video, it's actually the featured video on the page right now. Just trying to find... I'm not able to find where it is right now. But what ends up happening in this video is Deputy Hurst applies a tourniquet to Lydia Driver. Deputy Lydia Driver, excuse me. She ends up being taken to intensive care, where she was then released a few days later. Deputy Hurst was placed on administrative leave. He just shot his partner. Correct. Yes. All right, let's jump into the very last piece of footage here. We're gonna end things on a little bit of a, depends on how you look at it, high note. Let's talk about a toad jumper. For anybody that's airborne out there, I'm not that cool. For anybody that's airborne now, the terms toad jumper probably you know, make your butt do the thing where you're, you know what I mean, you clinch up a little bit. Well, we're gonna see the coolest, calmest toad jumper ever coming up for you guys right now. That's a towed jumper. So first of all, this doesn't look like a dude under duress to me. He looks like he's ordering pizza. He's just out there living his best life, hair in the wind. But quite honestly, what ended up happening here is his helmet probably impacted. Let's talk about what a towed jumper is first. So, with a static line jump, if for whatever reason the static line isn't able to draw your chute as you jump out of the aircraft, it can get hung up for myriad reasons. You end up with what's called a towed jumper situation. A lot of times you'll impact the side of the aircraft. It looks like either his helmet came off on impact there, or potentially when his buddies were jumping out after him, they impacted him and took his helmet off. There are a couple options that are available now, to the personnel in the plane to recover a towed jumper. And it depends really on whether or not the jumper is conscious. If the jumper is conscious, you can cut the line and the jumper can deploy their reserve chute. Now, there are a couple issues that were pointed out that his reserve chute is now shifted. It's not really in the right location for him to deploy it. The other option is attempt to pull the jumper in. Now, I can't speak to this authoritatively, but I've seen comments, saying, "Oh, you can land with him as long as you don't do it a certain way." I don't recommend. You're towing a dude, right? All I can see is that dude bouncing across the runway as you go to land. Anyway, here's the rest of the video. I'm telling you, he's waiting on his pizza, Is he waving? Hey. What a badass. Anyway. Oh, you're not even watching. We're looking at the wrong damn. Here you go. I'll give you one more time. Yeah, I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass on that. That's going to be it for us tonight, guys. My live night's going to continue. Thanks for being here. That's the most important thing, and it's something that I only have words to describe. If you're wondering why we're in a dark room now, we did kind of like a ultra scientific poll earlier in the night on having the big ass light on and then the big ass light off, and everybody said off was the best. What I'll do is I'll wait for this to post after the fact and catch some more comments and feedback. Maybe I'll try to balance it a little bit more, but always trying to improve this show. I do read the comments both while we're streaming as well as after the fact, and it's all appreciated. Positively, negatively, it doesn't matter. All right, it's all feedback. Thanks for being here. My live night's going to continue over there with a good friend of mine. We're going to play some Escape from Tarkov. It's going to automatically kick you over there. I'm going to give you Bayraktar on the way out because the HIMARS version that they did is just not quite up to the same par as Bayraktar. We'll see you guys Thursday for more footage, and make sure you have the app downloaded, that you've checked in on all the socials because we're posting all sorts of extra shit over there now too. Stay informed. Good night.